It's time for another Dice Tower review with the Chief, Bart Brunsheen.
Hi, it's the Chief. Today we're going to be talking about a game called Admiral. First of all, a little interesting. The game is designed in the Ukraine. So the copy I got had Russian and Ukrainian language. Luckily, there was a translation with it, and there's a great PDF that I actually used to kind of go through the rules, and they were translated very well. Just to give you an idea, ship to ship or fleet to fleet combat. The interesting thing here, definitely think wooden ships and iron men, but with these gorgeous little miniatures. Now you actually put these together, and for those of you that watch my Sedition Wars, I found out I'm not a very good miniatures putting together kind of guy. For some reason, I actually had fun putting these together. They're not hard. Matter of fact, you don't even have to glue them unless you want to. There's no painting involved. I'll give you closer shots on these when we get in, but I just found these to be they're kind of neat. So, and very functional. There's entry-level scenarios. It goes like lieutenant, captain, and then they're getting ready to come out with the Admiral rules, which are the heavier, more strategic rules. And the lieutenant rules are very, very open for play with kids. When the designers contacted me, they said that was their idea, was that a small kid, a 6-year-old, could play, and then as they grow, the game could grow and progress with them. But let's go ahead and take a closer look, and I'll show you exactly what we're looking at here. Now, I've only got half of the map board displayed, but you can see even it's big enough. There's some scenarios that just use it, but you'll have plenty of room to maneuver around. We'll take a look at the compass here. This is how you're going to determine your wind during the game. Blue is going to be considered like a fresh breeze, strong wind. White is calm or very little wind blowing, and then red is a storm. It's important just quickly on these little cards for each ship. By the way, these are magnets, and the little chips are slightly magnetized so they don't fall all over the place. Awesome. I don't know how much that cost them, but I love it. They're not like super hard magnets either. They slide around really easy. But when you're looking at your card, you can just see their movement. So if there's fresh breeze, this brig is going to move 5 orthogonally or 4 diagonally. And if it's dead calm, I don't know, basically they can get out in a row. I don't know exactly how they're moving. Maybe there's just a little bit of wind. They can move 1 orthogonally. And I'm going to kill myself saying that again and again. And if there's a storm, whichever way the wind's blowing, they're going to be blown out of control in whatever direction the wind is going. So, which can cause problems. I've got a reef displayed on the map. We'll go in closer, and I've got some islands. So running aground or isn't nearly as dangerous as hitting a reef, but I won't get into all those specific details. Real quick, since I've got it up here, let me set this down. I learned last time that no matter what I do, my hand shakes. So I'm going to break and zoom in. Here are the ship cards. You're going to see you'll have a brig, then a frigate, then a galleon, and then a first rate. Just real quick, you're going to use this little token for when you take your movement in the game. You're allowed to shoot and then move, and then if you have some more cannon left over, a brig does not, you could shoot again, or you might move and then shoot them all or whatever. So when you do move, you just place your movement counter wherever it is just to remind yourself that you've done your move action. The little red token just tracks how much damage your particular size ship can take. Obviously, if you reach 0, your ship sinks or blows up. And the little yellow one just shows if you fired your cannon or not. And you'll simply move it in order to show. So you're going to have a listing that this one has basically 1 row of cannon that can fire, and then their ranges basically orthogonally and diagonal. If you're using your first-rate ship, you could fire 1 row of your cannon, do your movement, and then fire your other row of cannon. While you're doing your movement, you can't be in the midst of your movement and fire. Here's a tighter shot of the ships themselves. You can even kind of make out that this one's the first rate. It's written on there. I may go in later with some kind of whiteout or something and see if I can bring the name up a little bit more visibly. You literally set a number, a little sticker inside this numbered area so you could track, you know, the little magnet cards have a matching number so you can tell yours, or maybe your fleet is ones or whatever. But literally on these guys, you place the ship into the little blue water base, and then you attach the sails to the little spires that are on the ship. And they've got little knobs on them, so everything just pops in. It's small work. I have huge sausage fingers that have a hard time putting these little ones together, especially some of the little tiny billowing sheets, but they just looked great. They were fun to put together. I couldn't believe how well done the plastic was. And it gives you a good view of the size. I mean, you've got our first rate has 3 guns. You can kind of see the guns that are poking out. And the sails are just magnificent, and they give you the feeling that they're under motion. So you got your little 2-masted brig here and your frigate, and the fact that the sails are a little bit different on each of them. So not only is the size and shape of the ship a little bit different, but so are the sails. Very easy to pick up during gameplay, and I just love these things. The map, there's one scenario where it's kind of like a capture the flag. These overlay pieces are just great. At first I thought the water looked real busy, but you know, it's like a Caribbean seawater, and these overlays just match in great. I mean, you almost can't tell they're overlays. There's these little bars of gold that are in here. There's a little bit more in the actual scenario, but you've got to sail in and get the gold and get out, and whoever gets the most, and you're doing battle all at the same time. A kid-friendly scenario, but very fun. You've got your reef over here, which actually sits underneath the water. You don't ever want to go into a reef space, so it's kind of an area denial thing that's placed on the map, just to make movement a little more difficult. Or if a storm happens to blow up, and you get blown into it, you're going to take damage to your ship. Here's the sprues that these come on, so you can see all the bases. These are flags. I don't have them on any of my masts. You can do it just to tell, another way to tell your friendly ships, or if you take over a fort, you can put these forts right off the island. Sometimes there's a kind of like defend your base game as well, where the other one's trying to damage or destroy your fort, but you can also go back there and repair your ships when you're in the bay. You can use fire ships. There's mines in here. The mines are a little weird. They actually have pictures of what look like World War II mines. The actual sprues for the ships, you got to be a little careful cutting them out. Everything's a little ginger, and there's such fine pieces that that you don't want to just, you know, go willy-nilly on it. And then what I simply love are these sails. And you got to trim them up just a bit, and sometimes you got to bore out some of the sail holes. You don't want to do too much because there's little knobs on the ship mast that they just pop into, and it holds them extremely well. It does mention you can paint these, but they've done such a good color with their plastic, or such a good job with their plastic color choices. And I'm not a painter, so I'm not going to be painting them. One thing I didn't like in the lieutenant and captain level game, which are the only rules included in this one, they're working on the admiral level. When you go to fire on somebody, it'll be easiest for me to just show you with the iPad. When you go to fire on them, they've got to be in this direct line of fire. And I'm very used to a ship's danger being basically a cone of fire. The broadside can reach out and hit anything in this area, because that's how it was in real life. And here you're even given the same amount of range both fore and aft. And historically, if you were firing off your front or rear, you had much less range, much less damage. And I asked about it. They said there's much more heavy strategic rules at the Admiral level. I hope in the Admiral rules they have zones of fire, like a whole broadside, and there's some differences maybe even in the ammunition you can use, but who knows? Here is an example of crossing the T, which I am assured will be in the Admiral rules. You basically have a first-rate ship here and a galleon here, which would completely outgun this brig and this frigate. But you can see two things happen if you're able to cross the T. If I can get in this position, both of these ships would be in my broadside range, and at least this guy could still hit this guy down here. Or I could focus all my fire on this, first-rate ship. And their guns should be minimal, and this guy wouldn't be able to fire at all. And so you can see the maneuvering is key. Crossing the T is huge. That's all I can tell you. It's all about getting into maneuver. Hopefully that gives you a visual aspect of it. I don't want to sit here and draw off, in lieutenant levels, your lines of fire are this, this, and this. I showed you a little shot with from the rules on the iPad. Hopefully you've got a concept of what's going on here. I love the visual look of this. All right, on the good note, love the ships, love the entry-level ability that comes with this. A couple little tiny things that I didn't enjoy too much that I kind of referenced a little bit already. I talked to the designers about the dice roll and why was it odds and evens, just because it makes it kind of awkward. Like I said, if you're in close combat and you roll the dice to hit and you roll a 2, that's a miss. That's the only dice or die roll that's a miss. And that's because evens are misses, and since you're in close combat, it's just the lowest number of the evens. Now again, that's not hard, but I'm just, what I kind of shared with the designers, I wanted to know why, if there was something in the Admiral level that it affected. They said, not really. They even said, hey, if you like 1, 2, 3 being a miss and 4, 5, 6 being a hit, I do, then switch it. They said it won't matter. That's probably what I'll do. I'll house rule that. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't some deeper reason that was going to come out with the Admiral level. The other thing, again, for kids, lieutenant level, I would say is just for introductory level, maybe brand new players that have never done any kind of wooden ship combat, or kids. I don't like that the angle of fire is just these specific lines that they have to be into. I'm used to, and this comes from the old Avalon Hill Wooden Ships, Iron Men, you're setting up broadside attacks, and it's more of a cone of fire that you're dealing with. And if you're able to cross the T, famous in the Battle of Trafalgar, you're basically bringing your broadsides against the enemy, maybe even on both sides, and they can only fire maybe their stern guns or their forward firing guns, so fore or aft. And these guns are usually shorter range, much less damage, so it's really to your advantage. And in order to do that, you've got to use the wind. Now the wind in this game is done with a spinner. I like that aspect of it. It becomes much more important in the captain level because movement is now affected by you tacking into the wind or with the wind. And that's really what you have to do with sailing ships, because it's really about setting up your position and firing. Also in the basic level, I can't speak for the Admiral, there was no specific loading out of your cannons. And that's fine. Again, I kind of hope that's there in the Admiral level, but we won't get to see that for a couple months. I like the idea of picking, double shot, chain shot. Am I going for the rigging? Am I going to put the hole? But again, anybody that's played Wooden Ships and Iron Men, that's what I'm referencing there. I love that game, but I love these ships. I love this concept. You get tons and tons of ships in this game. There's a lot of weight to this, and the ability to scale up and down, I love that aspect of it. So that's it. It's the Chief. See you guys later. Bye.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.